But what good is spending a lot of money if your records don't sound good because of dust and static electricity?
I can turn you into a cake baker. And a cookie maker. And a popcorn popper.
We have done it all so far, and now we get to mix and mash it up. That's right. The last part of ds106 is remix and mashups. It gets crazy. What these things really are, well, it may seem really confusing. Really confusing. Really confusing. Really confusing.
Oh no, I'm trapped by the apes. What kind of place is this where apes are the ruling class? What are they going to do with me? I must escape.
And likely trip up on issues of copyright.
All you do is take boiling water, add milk, and then gently stir in.
Take that!
The sound that carries with rugged.
You'll cross up media and characters. Make new things from other parts. We are probably live right now. Welcome to the very last episode, week 14 of the ds106 show. I've fired Kevin MacLeod and the Incompetent Band and found this song on SoundCloud. And because the theme is remix, not that anybody really cares about the little intro videos that I do, but I will tack them onto the front of this. But I took last week's video and just chopped it all up and mashed up the music and put that in there. But welcome to the ds106 show. I'm really excited that my friend and good colleague and longtime ds106 participant, Brian Lamb, is able to tune in to us from Kamloops, British Columbia. Hola, Brian.
Hola, ¿cómo están?
Muy bien. That's as far as I'm going. You know that.
Fair enough.
That's shameless. And also glad that Nancy Bell's here, who's been to just about all or most of the ds106.
I think I missed 2 because I had class.
Yeah. Why do you do this?
Because I don't have class on Tuesdays until 7 p.m.
Okay, so there's nothing else to do. There's nothing else on the internet, right?
Well, it's this or go on Reddit and get in trouble.
How do you get in trouble on Reddit?
I don't. I just get really distracted on Reddit.
Okay.
Like, I spent all of Friday in class looking at the Reddit feed for the bomber thing, which is really cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you think of the whole kind of, like, the fervor to, like, use the power of the internet and then finding out that it kind of came up short?
I thought it was I was kind of laughing because 4chan got involved. And some of the photos I saw originally were, like, clearly these guys are cops. Like, oh, yeah, they have the backpack, but it's after the bombings happened, and they're in the street and they've got their cop stuff out. So some of it that was really bizarre, but I thought it was interesting to see the crowdsourcing.
Was it like a little bit of like overconfidence?
Yeah, and it was also the conspiracy theory people who were doing it. I just thought it was funny that 4chan got so involved, because 4chan is usually used for not good stuff.
Yeah. So we're in the second of our 2-week section on Remix, and as the token student, Nancy, I'll just say a few things about what you found so far in doing these Remix assignments. I'm
trying to start them. I'm working on them now. I've been really busy with like life, like classes, but they're interesting. I know I'm very excited that.
Wait a minute. ds106 is supposed to be your life.
Yeah, but I had a field trip last night.
Okay.
I'm very excited that Popcorn works on my Chromebook, because a lot of stuff doesn't work on it.
So you tried Popcorn?
Yeah, I was playing around with it a little bit.
It's a little bit hard to manipulate some of the timeline things, but I'm really intrigued by the tool for being able to, I kind of think I would have introduced it earlier for doing some of the video assignments.
And I'm excited for our final. I like what I have planned out. I just need to figure out how to do it fully.
But what do you? I mean, what's your like perception or idea or concept of Remix?
I'm doing. Oh, my perception of it. It's kind of like mashing up a bunch of different media. Like, it's almost like taking the Hackosaurus stuff, which is one of my favorite things to do, but then adding in like your own photos and stuff and videos. Right.
And so you've been a little vocal this week about some of your videos being tagged on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this idea of fair use, I really strongly suggest. Tim Owens had sent out a link to this talk by this guy Andy Bio, who went through a really kind of horrendous case with this, and he makes it really clear. I mean, there is no protection or safeguard. Fair use is not a law. Basically, fair use says if you want to spend like $100,000, you can go to court and maybe argue on it. And what's happening? There's people out there who are basically using it as a way to make money. They will put out these copyright claims against people like you and me in the hopes that they settle out of court. Because the cost of just going to court and dealing with fair use. So even though you're right in feeling that way, and I felt that way too, when you get that thing from YouTube, it's like, wait a minute, I'm a student, or I'm doing this for class, I'm not trying to make money. They don't care about that at all. And it's not even YouTube, it's the copyright owners, it's the 5 companies that own all the media, because they get to call the shots.
I just got on YouTube, actually, and I'm now in copyright school.
Nice.
Oh, right.
Because
but you did appeal one of yours, right?
I appealed 2 of mine, and one of them got tagged twice because it was the music and the video, and I didn't realize that web shows are copyright. So the Nerdist is what got me, because I used one of their videos.
Yeah.
How have you found the quality of copyright school's instruction to be so far?
I'm looking at it right now, and they're giving me a animated YouTube video, and then asking me questions.
So it sounds like Coursera.
Yeah, I should like screen cap this and put it on my blog, because this is really entertaining.
Yeah, you should just copy it.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
What's the license on that video?
I don't know, but I'm gonna screen cap this right now if I can figure out how to do it.
I guess it's not Creative Commons.
Yeah, probably not. But it was interesting. I was also rewatching this week Brett, who I wish could have been here, Brett Gaylor, who did the film Remix Manifesto, and he basically says, like, I am in so much trouble, and he tracks down Lars Lessig, and he says, I talked to the coolest lawyer on the internet, and he says my movie is a total copyright violation.
Well, there's so much crap on the internet that's copyright, and I know it, and it's like, but I pulled this from YouTube.
It's a shame Brett couldn't be here, because there's a story I've been wanting to tell him. I don't know if he even follows me on Twitter, but we've kind of brushed against each other in a few contexts like this one. But about 3 years ago, I was invited to give a talk in Buenos Aires, and it was going to be in this public forum, and they wanted me to talk about mashup culture and stuff. And then, like, about 3 or 4 weeks before the talk was supposed to happen, I saw a Remix Manifesto in a theater. and quite liked the film. And there were 2 or 3 scenes in particular that I thought would be really relevant. And there was one in particular, it was actually the part in Brazil. That, oh, this might resonate with the South American audience. And I knew too that, oh no, this was, and just the Spanish language stuff, even though it's Portuguese in Brazil. But I just thought it might be relevant. And DJ culture too, because they were going to have DJs and raves and stuff happening as part of this festival. So I actually thought, well, they actually had stuff on the web, but it was kind of not great quality. And then I also just had visions of like bandwidth or something, me standing in front of 300 or 400 people that don't speak English as a first language, and I'm on the website pulled up. And I thought, well, you know what? Like, if you've watched the film, like at the end of it, he's like, take my film, copy it, pour a beer on my head, do whatever you want. So I go, okay, well, you know, why should I be hung up with this? So I actually had friends who had been given promo copies for media reviews and stuff. So there were these DVDs floating all over Vancouver. So I thought, okay, well, you know, I'm an emerging technologies manager at UBC, and you know, I'm giving this talk at a cultural center, and you know, and I tell them what 2 minutes I want. They should be able to send me a DVD. So I got bounced from the promo people to the CBC, and I went into this bureaucratic hell where, like, they wanted me to sign like 5 different releases, and I had to pay $100 a minute for everything I wanted to show, and then I had to promise I would destroy all copies of it afterwards. And I still have that contract around somewhere. I didn't sign it, nor did I send them the whatever it was, $400 they wanted. I did show the DVD though.
Well, it's just, I mean, it feels like totally ludicrous and like a system that cannot possibly work in terms of like preventing the reuse of media, but still, it seems like such a stranglehold, right, Brian?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and I must admit, over the last few years, as I've seen kind of how the economics of kind of online culture play out, you know, it seems like iTunes gets its money, Google gets its money, you know, the platform owners get their money, and it never seems like the artists are getting paid. And, you know, I've read some really interesting reports, you know, like musicians who, you know, who actually have followings, you know, that people listen to their music and they're well known, but, you know, they're living in 1-bedroom apartments with no health insurance and, or experiencing bankruptcy. Now, this has nothing to do with sampling, of course, but I've become a little more sympathetic to, you know, people who say, you know, if we're going to just trash traditional copyright, there's really nothing else in place to help artists make a living.
Right.
So I've become a little more sympathetic, although, again, I'm not prepared to offer a defense of the traditional copyright regimes and the way it gets enforced. And Nancy, the case you're up against, you know, like where, you know, an automated algorithm flags creative work you're doing, and you know, you're not even dealing with human beings here. It sounds very Kafkaesque. There's no defense for that sort of stuff either.
Our Chaplin Foley project got flagged.
Yeah. The first. Yeah, that did it.
I just tweeted out a photo of Copyright School, by the way.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you can. They flagged me on that when I first did it, and I did the. I filed the claim, and they lifted it. You know, I cited that it was, you know, it was a tiny, you know, it was 2 minutes out of a full-length feature film. It was for educational purposes. But still, I mean, you could, you know, and it's this weird place right now where there is, I mean, YouTube is allowing, I mean, they're not policing the stuff that's getting put on there, and their defense is going to be, it wasn't us, people uploaded it. So there is all this copyrighted material in there, and in some ways it's great. I mean, full-length feature films on YouTube, I never thought I would see that. And honestly, the amount of stuff that you can get on YouTube is kind of mind-boggling. For
every music video ever made is on YouTube.
And on all the old, the you know, the old tacky commercials I've been using for my videos. You know, it's an incredible resource, and it's still not clear yet what the whole right situation is.
I'm a theater person, and there's a lot of we have bootlegging issues, and there are a lot of like theater performers that like that because they're like, oh, I can see my work, but that's a whole other story. Like, I've actually done some theater rights management stuff. Like, I was really into that at one point, and I'm in musical theater class now, if you look at sheet music books we get, they're like they're like an A4 size. So they're hard to copy. And it's like, oh, this is a copyright measure. Well, we all just scan the books anyway.
Well, yeah, and in Brett's film, I mean, when he did the the back of the envelope calculation for what the rights would have cost for one of Girl Talk song, it was something like $3 million.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, the rights, I think someone did calculations on albums like the Beastie Boys, Paul's Boutique, and I think one of the Public Enemy albums. And the way that rights and royalty rates work for samples right now, they would lose something like $25 for every album they sold.
Oh, wow.
And here's the whole irony. I mean, and to like sample a piece of literature, or when we're doing written work, you just have to give it. You have to give it the citation. You don't have to pay for it.
Yeah. I think it's funny though that like I can more easily illegally download a whole album than I can a song. Like I was up against that last week. Like I didn't have the money to buy a song and couldn't find a decent copy of it online, but I could find the album with like no issues.
Right.
Yeah, the pirates are completists. What can you say?
I mean,
they're into the album
LiveJournal,
concept.
like a couple years before we had MP3 share taken out, which is a huge LiveJournal community. That's like what a lot of people use LiveJournal for. Is we traded files on there, and we don't do that anymore because I mean, there's a couple communities I'm in, but they're not as big as we used to have. Like, I used to know how to find anything I wanted on LiveJournal, like no issues.
Wow, I forgot about LiveJournal. It's still around. That's interesting.
I still use it. Well, ONTD is on there, and I use that a lot.
What's
it's
that?
A news. Oh, no, they didn't. It's a news site.
Okay,
that's cool.
Yeah.
See, Nancy teaches me a lot about pop culture. Just
I'm getting.
Well,
I feel like I should be taking better notes here.
You didn't know who NPH was.
I did not know who NPH was. Actually, to me, it's insulin. It's a kind of medicine.
Oh, really?
But that's another story. So since Brian's here for a short time, I mean, one of the things that always comes up is trying to sort out, if it even matters, a difference between remix and mashup.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm glad you added that, if it even matters. Maybe I'm just going to throw a quick question to Nancy. Like you mentioned you were doing some remix assignments at the end. Did it feel kind of weird that this is coming along at the end? Like, were you and classmates already taking stuff from external sources and working it into your art before you even realized it was like what you were going to do in week 13 or whatever?
I think I have. I mean, I sing, but I don't make music, so I've had to use other people's music. I did use a lot of my own photography, but that's because I'm a photographer. But I know a lot of people haven't been. And I know some people are basing their like things around like Disney princesses, and I'm kind of creating my own character, but not really.
Yeah, to answer, I mean, a fair number of students were downloading videos in our audio unit to get the audio track out of it. And I'm trying to think. They might have done some screen, shots, when we're doing some of our design things, just to get a particular design. So I see what you're saying is like people probably have been doing remix-like things without identifying.
Yeah, I mean, so there's the academic definition of remix versus mashup that I once wrote an article like 6 years ago for Educause, so I felt I had to, you have to explain everything to that audience. So, the classic thing is that a remix is taking one particular piece of work and either working off of it or altering it or working it together, and then when you have two or more distinct artifacts that you put together, it's a mashup. And of course, with things like data, it could be two different things. You could be taking mapping data and you could be adding images to it. So you're even crossing media types in that type of mashup. But
I mean, what Girl Talk does is remix or mashup.
Well, I guess it's mashup because there's different songs.
Yeah.
Right. Like I said, I think when you hear about the remix, it's kind of like the idea you might like take an existing song and turn it into a dubstep track or something. But you're kind of still taking that unique piece of media and kind of staying within that. Or if, like I say, I'm going to remix. You remember they had that goofy Learner's Bill of Rights?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And they were telling people to remix our Learner's Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
Or hack it. We used to edit and revise documents, but now we hack and remix them. But I think what they're saying is, go ahead and add some things to it, make it different, make it your own. But I think, I don't know, I mean, when I did the presentation for ds106 about 2 years ago, and thought about remix and mashup culture for the first time in a few years, and thinking about it through the lens of ds106, it seemed to me like it just wasn't as useful a set of categories as it used to be. My sense is that people today, and Nancy, I think you kind of confirmed it with your answer, you probably don't really think about it in those terms. Whereas, in the 80s, it's not like you couldn't mash things together. I mean, I think most people say, even like late 19th century, you started to, like this is a little later than that, but say when Picasso clips out a bit of a newspaper and sticks it into a painting and paints around it, like that blew people's minds.
Mm-hmm. I was like doing that early on. I did the newspaper poetry thing I did.
Yeah.
I took an editorial about Obama's inauguration and turned it into like about the AIDS crisis.
Yeah. I think it's a very natural thing to do now, and I think it's not that digital media changed the nature of that kind of appropriation and recontextualization, but it made it so much easier, and it made the effects groovier and allowed you to do it more quickly, and you could make the integration so much more seamless. I mean, that was the part that blew me away too. I used to make mashups. In fact, our friend Jason told Dragon, the ds106 Dr. Jones, has a recording of some mashups I did on reel-to-reel tape, which it took days to do, and it's kind of clunky, and the timing's weird. In a way, it's kind of better because it has this weird off-kilter original quality that was just that way because it was like, oh my god, I'm not going to do 6 hours to move this sample 2 seconds earlier. I'll let it be a bit out of time, Christ, and then it kind of has its own unique character.
Well,
what you do with Audacity, you're going to make it perfect, right? And to move it a second or two either way is just literally dragging it with your mouse.
I was going to say the other night, what you're doing on the radio was kind of a mashup performance.
Well, it was, and that was very analog. The other night, I was just playing with the feedback. I forgot I had ds106 radio open in a browser window, so then I started playing music through my phone or broadcast through the phone, and then I was hearing myself through the speaker, and the sound effects, I was enjoying it, so that ended up becoming what the broadcast was about. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the old school way of doing it. But anyway, my point is, I think those are kind of interesting historical grounding ways of looking at these things. But when we talk about digital media now, I just think of remix and mashup now. They're just some of the things you do. It's like cutting and pasting. It's like making a copy. It's like sending it. I mean, they're all just things you do with digital media, and it doesn't mean we can't think about it, but I think it's harder to say interesting things about it.
On its own, it's not that worth pointing out. It's helpful to hear you say that because in a way, and Nancy kind of says this. I mean, they've been doing bits of remix all along, and it's nothing special. It's just it's making stuff out of materials, and so what they're doing in this last bit is kind of something beyond what they did for per se just when we called it this is a video or this is an audio. They're really putting it all together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but and it's been fun watching it.
But still, the question remains like, okay, when does something become something new? And it's you can't even define it.
Yeah.
So some of the assignments that students have to do, and the ones that usually get flagged on copyrights, are these things where they're montaging together 5 clips from a movie, which is easy to flag on YouTube.
Sure.
And to some degree, it has not really that different from the original.
But that's a lot of that's like you can get that in any form of art. Like I could sit here and I could write some of the most cliched poetry imaginable. My love is like the sun rising over the mountain. And I'm not deliberately copying any piece of work, but I could be so derivative and boring that would you call that a piece of poetry? Like theoretically it is, but it would be just as derivative, really. Or if I had a guitar with me, I could just start playing some chord progression of E to D to A, and make up some cliched words. And did I just write an original song there? So I think I think what you're getting at is I think you could just very easily just appropriate something and not put a lot of thought into it and create a piece of shit. But I think you can do that in just about any media. And I think with just about any of those forms, if you're willing to put in just that little bit of extra attention, and or sometimes you just get lucky, I mean, that's the serendipitous piece, sometimes you throw two things together, and what do you know? It works way better than you ever thought it would, or it has a. Yeah, I did a post on my weblog where I saw a quote, and it was about the word abject, and that's what my blog is called. And I liked the quote, so I thought I would just do a very quick post. And I was looking for an image to add to it, and I saw this animated GIF of Frankenstein's monster. And literally, this whole process took like 3 minutes. And I posted it and went off to my day, and then got counting, and all these people really liked it. And then I realized when I was looking at the quote, it actually had all sorts of had references to shadows dancing. And I was like, oh, there's shadows dancing in that GIF, and there were all these resonances that I actually had no idea were there. But when I was like, wow, that was almost like the perfect juxtaposition of those things. You know, sometimes that happens when you throw stuff together. Sometimes you're messing around your guitar. You know, those 2 or 3 chords, you put them together in a way you never really quite expected, and something comes out of it. So I just think it's just part of the artistic palette, you know, that we have to try and express ourselves with.
And yet, sort of a question is, we're kind of close to it because we're involved in that culture.
Yeah.
But is it still kind of is it a fringe thing? The fact that we've got these, laws from a different century per se. In Brett's movie, when he's talking to the woman who's like in charge of like copyrights, and she's like, I don't use a computer. I mean, she's basically part of the regulation machine, and she's like, I don't understand what I'm regulating.
But it's, people in my office, they take funny pictures of the boss and put it on top of somebody else's body, and then they use it to announce the company picnic, right? And they don't think they're making a mashup.
But that's like memes, like. That's what memes. I'm just like thinking. When I took one of my Dr. Whalen classes, who's one of our professors here, who's really a digital media person, was when Paula Deen writing things was a big meme, which is like the stupidest meme ever. And we had found a picture of him with his stuffed Yeti in college, and we thought it was funny. So I came home one night and made it into a meme, and he thought it was hysterical.
Yeah. And
I just don't know where I put it. I'll post it on my ds106 blog once I find it. But that was Mashup.
The history of the meme is kind of fascinating, Nancy. I don't know if you're familiar with when that came out.
Probably not, because it's probably
It's got its roots in people trying to explain culture through the language of genetics.
Oh, cool.
It's used differently now. It was a very kind of weird, kind of fringy pseudoscience that sucked me into it about 12 years ago. Anyway, I don't know why I went on that. I'm afraid I have to run away.
That's okay.
Which is probably good for both of you. Nancy, it's nice to finally see you. I realized as soon as I saw your icon, I've been following you on Twitter, I presume since the beginning of this class.
Probably, yeah, it's one of my docs.
Very cool. Anyway, I apologize for wasting your time. And
ever so humble, Brian Lamb.
Indeed. And I apologize for running away.
That's okay, man. Thanks for dropping in. It's good to see you, as always.
Take care.
All right, see you, Brian.
We need to get Todd Conway in here. I think that's who said he was watching us.
He's watching. Let's make faces at Todd Conway.
Wait, I'm gonna put on the dog goggles. You should invite him.
Todd Conway. He's invited. He knows how to get here.
Oh.
He's a peeper. Todd Conway is a peeper. Never trust him.
Well, he'll pop up now.
He's like, because you don't know who he is. Like, I could name, and I'm not going to do it, but I know about 4 of his identities.
Oh, no.
He thinks he's like a big top secret, but he talks to himself a lot on Twitter. I'm going to taunt him until he comes in.
Oh, no.
Todd Conway is a proud leader of the local Republican Party in Cottonwood. Just kidding. So you're just lining things up to get the rest of the work done.
Yeah, I'm working on that. I have rehearsal for the next 2 nights, so I'm trying to figure out how to do, because I can't work on my Chromebook for this class.
Right.
So I'm gonna just come back and do that when I get back from rehearsal.
Remind me what your project is on.
Neil Patrick Harris in the World of Color.
That's right. NPA show, yeah.
I love him, and I'm gonna do an evolution. I'm gonna kind of go from black and white to color for him.
Yeah, I remember that. So what does that represent in the story that you're going to tell?
I don't know. I just basically had written up a treatment for doing the black and white movie, the silent movie, with one of his things. And I was like, well, I'll just use it for the final since I've already proposed. I'm almost done with one for different clips. So I was like, oh, I'll do it for the final. And then I'm like, oh, I can use color for him. And I can use some of the clips from him with the Muppets.
Todd has just messaged you. He didn't get a
Oh.
I just sent him the invite. He claims he didn't get the invite.
Oh, now he's here.
He did join. Join the chat. Made room for Todd Conway.
Cool.
Dude.
Hey man, I don't have a camera right at the moment.
Man, sound like underwater.
And I don't have that much hair on my head either.
I know. Who are you? Who are you, man?
You can hear me, that's good. Because I don't have, so I'm sorry.
That's okay. Always good to hear you, even if it's not really your picture.
I like the look, man. That's like, what weird filter is that?
It's comic book.
That's cool.
I got tired from black and white, and this is the last week of the goofiness, so thought I'd go out in some form of bad style.
So how is copyright school? I've got to be there just as a guest.
I'm going to watch the video probably after this. But it's like, honestly, the questions are stupid.
Yeah, when the video that Andy Bio did, he kind of made fun of it, just about kind of how lame. He's like, this is the best like instruction that Google can provide.
Let's use Happy Tree Friends, which is kind of stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, they could use Adventure Time and it would be worse, but this is pretty bad.
You know, I wonder on their end, do you provide like the suit and tied, straight laced, like talking head guy for 21 minutes, or do you do 4 minutes of ridiculous silliness and try to get your point across? You know, which of those two at this day and age with the YouTube audience that's, you know, they believe is, you know, doing the wrong stuff, which of those two do you try? And I would vote that they made a fairly good guess, being a little more silly and not, you know, so straight-laced or whatever, but I'm sure there's a happy medium in there somewhere that they could have.
Yeah, I don't know if you could like pick one, you know, one audience to sort of aim that at, considering how many people are in there. The other thing, they could just like be, you know, humans. They could just be who they are. But yeah, I mean, I'm not against doing it in sort of a fun way. It's, you know, we do that all the time in ds106.
Yeah, I wonder about like additionally, say links to like a Wiley or a, yeah, I mean just some of the things we've seen over the years from the more OER remix-ish crowd, kind of informing that space in the conversation as well, rather than the, you know, oh, you've done something wrong and we're going to get to it.
It just seems so gray because this whole system that's set up now is like, you know, people are uploading and we're accessing copyrighted stuff. Leave it to the movie and recording industry to pick out the ones to issue the citations. But the thing that most people feel is, and most of the students are, is like, I found it on YouTube, why can't I remix it? I mean, it's already there. And so, you know, I mean, YouTube does not want to be the copyright police.
Like, Vimeo doesn't care what we do, though, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, and I don't know how, you know, Vimeo is dealing with that. You know, you do sign, you do say something when you post on Vimeo that it is original work and that it's not copyrighted.
Yeah.
So, you know, they may be looking the other way. The movie studios may not be cracking down on them. Maybe they're not as big as YouTube. But it's just not a matter of like, hey, I'm just an innocent person here trying to make something creative. You know, it's true. I know it. Todd knows it, but they don't really care about that. and just, you know, it was. I just think, you know, especially for you, Nancy, not just you, but all the students. I mean, this is kind of a pain in the butt right now because it's interfering with the way that you're able to do this class. But I'm hoping that you start to think more about, is this the way it should be? Because I mean, it's going to be honestly up to you guys to change the law.
It's like we have this in CISPA, and CISPA is ridiculous too.
It is, and like, you know, when are people, you know, enough people, you right now, the number of people who know enough to be affected by this are relatively a minority. And so that's why this stuff is still sliding on through.
I hope, I like the idea of respecting the art that other people do, and I think, Alan, you're an excellent role model in giving credit where credit's due consistently in all forms of, photos, video, whatever. For a long time, it seems like the stuff you've created always gives attribution to the person who did it. And that's something that once that gets into the minds of today's students on a broader scale, I think that will solve part of the predicament, which is people who just want to be recognized for what they do. They don't care whether it's copied so much, unless they're generating $1 billion record labels. But most people just want, I think, that they get recognized and they get linked to the original item. Stuff like that, I think, once that becomes more ingrained in the way we operate.
Right. No, I'm, of course, fully on board with that. But, Brian had a good point. It's like, at the same time, people who are trying to devote their life to this, to make a living, to be musicians or artists, whatnot, like, how are they going to feed themselves? How are they going to, house themselves? So what are the ways that people can not make, they should make money, but to earn a decent wage for being in the creative arts? Because otherwise, the economy is going to squeeze it out and make it not possible. Or the people who are doing it are the ones who can be like, well, I do have a job, so attribution is enough for me. And it becomes a little different when you have to eat. And I don't think, there have been some little things that, people have tried. And it's really good that we had Jonathan on last week, as a professional photographer, to realize that his business model was flawed. And so he's experimenting with some of these new ways that artists can earn a living at the same time promoting the free exchange of ideas and the art that they make.
Yeah, the notion of earn a living will forever be a great conversation, right? I mean, do you need your own jumbo jet with your band's logo on the tail? Or
Yes, I do. I need that jet.
And does it matter? I mean, maybe that's something that people who don't have jumbo jets with band logos on the side, they can't talk about it and say, oh, that's right or wrong, because they don't have jumbo jet. I mean, they can't know that. So, I don't know. I
feel like the funny thing now, like, okay, I'm a baseball nerd, and I feel like I see more of the copyright notices when I'm watching baseball games than when I watch, like, regular TV. Like, regular TV, it's like, I guess they think, oh, you should know this. Baseball, they, like, during the game will be like, this is copyright MLB, blah, 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 and it's like, okay.
That's true. It's
just
hard.
kind of weird now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of money flowing through that MLB, too.
Yeah.
In all directions, except for the dude sitting in the bleacher.
Yeah, well, I can't watch. I'm a diehard Mets fan. I can't watch their games where I live. Like, I'm in Virginia and Maryland. I want to watch their games. I got to pay up like a couple $100 a year to like watch everything online. It's ridiculous.
That's true. Even I forget who I was talking to, but they went to spring training down in the Valley, Todd, to the new stadium out on the reservation, and I guess someone with them needed to get couldn't because of a leg issue, they couldn't sit on the grass, so they basically had to get 4 reserved seats, and they said the game cost them $400.
What?
Because the seats were they were $95 a piece.
Oh my god! I go to games that are $15 a pop.
Yeah, well, usually, if you don't have a disability, you can sit on the grass and pay a reasonable amount.
I go to independent teams because they're cheap.
It's all good.
Well, that was pretty funny. I don't think I've ever watched a Hangout.
You're a peeper.
Watched, yeah, that was totally weird.
That's good. I think we have another one. I can tell there's one other viewer. And actually, I know who it is because this person said they were going to watch.
Very good.
I won't shame this person. I won't even name a gender.
They haven't even tweeted that they're watching. How weird is that? Just kidding.
I like to watch.
Yeah.
Is that one of the kid, is it somebody in our class?
No.
Well, let's play 50 questions.
Yeah. You know what? It's probably somebody you tweeted earlier about the show.
They're bigger than a bread box. I can tell you that.
East Coast ETA.
East Coast, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying.
Yeah.
But thanks both of you for joining. Todd, you've been on many of these. Nancy's been on almost all of them. They're kind of fun. I like having the element of some live things to the class. You know, in years past, we've tried to do a little bit more with the live radio and trying to do things with the Google Hangout. So I think it's important. I don't know if anybody else in class does, but it's been fun for me. And frankly, that's what counts.
I firmly agree that if online education is going to be wonderful and feel good, we're going to need some things like this as an option or opportunity to take advantage of, because it's more human, more humane experience.
But you can't do this on a mass scale, and I was reading someone writing about
I don't want to do it on a mass scale.
These classes where basically the professors say, you cannot communicate with me. There are so many students in the class, I cannot communicate with you, so you can't.
We don't even do that here. I mean, Mary Wash is so small that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But
I would vote the 10 or 15 you can get now in the EDU version or whatever it is. Use that well. Use the smallness to your advantage rather than, and I think that's what it'll force that to happen, and that's a good thing.
But I think our school needs to get upgraded with our internet here is horrible. We're getting like 2 megs per second, I think, or something. It's some ridiculous, low number. And usually if we have more than like 3 students in here, one of us gets kicked because the internet here can't support it.
I won't tell you about my old modem.
Yeah, those days it will improve. It's on a good path to improve.
All right. Well, I'm gonna thank everybody for coming. Unless there's anything else to ruminate on, to complain about. No one ever complains.
No.
That's all good. I need more hair on the top of my head.
Your picture is like got an abundance of hair.
I know. Well, but not live. Man. Okay. Good work, both of you.
All right. See you, hippie. See you, Nancy.
See ya.
All right. Good luck with everything, and I'll see you at the end of the semester.
Yeah.
End of the ds106 show. The last one, the lights are shutting down. The studio goes off.
Nice.
See.